At the bigger screen, I mean the screen.
Yes, but you can see it though, right?
Yeah, I can see it, but I can't like make it like the full screen.
Oh, but I can make the screen I'm sharing to be the full screen, right? Like now, it is the
Yeah,
biggest.
I mean I can see that,
Yeah.
but on the other side, I can't see it like on the full. Like I have my sidebar and everything.
Oh, I see. Okay, let's both record. Maybe at the end of the stream, we'll try to figure something out.
Okay, done.
All right, cool. Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to today's stream. Last week, we set up this, the last time before Sonia's stream last week, we set up this front end to show the current state of our network status. So at the moment, you see that the Archiver 2 server is down and all the other services are up, and that is by design. What we want to do this week, or at least what we want to try and achieve on this stream, is an uptime monitor page similar to what Avalanche has on this page where they monitor their network, right? So you can see all the couple services that they have, and you can see some uptime percentages listed out here. So this is for the last 90 days, and this is similar to what we want to try and achieve today. So we're going to make a new page on our network status page, and we try to just build out that uptime functionality. And let's see. So we're using Next.js for the front end. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create a new page. Let's call it Uptime. I'm going to try to go really fast because we have a long way to go and we just have a few minutes to do that. So this is the page where we're going to have all the functionality that we want to have, right? So let me just make an empty page for now. And let's call this page Uptime page, or just Uptime works. And here, let me return a single div that says hello world, maybe. All right, so I will try to see if we get that page. Okay, we do get that page. It says hello. Okay, so what I want to do is, this is the page where I'm going to I don't know what this is yelling about, so I'm just gonna remove that for now. This is the page where we want to have our uptime monitor, right? If you look at the last time, what we have here, we have a data fetching thing that we pulled all our data from Prometheus and we display that down below. But what we want to do this time is have a kind of like a standalone data fetching logic that we can reuse on other multiple places, because that one is going to fetch historical data for us, and we have a different API URL for that. And I've gone ahead to add that to our .env file. So if you look at the env file, you see that we have the URL range endpoint, which we can, that's where we're going to get the data we need from. And this one basically just gives you the current status. It doesn't give you historical data. So let's go ahead and do that. Before we actually do that, let me also show you that we have some types now. So I've moved our types into this standalone file where we can import it from, so that it's easy for us to reuse. And then let's go ahead and make that standalone utility file, so we can put our data fetching logic in there. And let's call this fetch status.ts. So what we want to do here is basically similar to what we're doing on here, right? Similar to this function, but we're going to make this one standalone so that it's we can reuse that for all the other places we're going to need it. So let's do export. It's going to be an async function, and we can call it fetch status. a few things that we want to do here. Actually, let's pseudocode a little bit. So the first thing we want to do here is let's do fetch data from Prometheus. Right. The second thing we want to do is map the data we fetched to an expected format. Maybe not an expected format per se, but the format that we want to have it so that it's easy for us to use in our project. And then the third thing we want to do is we want to get the latest maybe 10 or 20 records from that data. And lastly, we want to return the data, I guess. Okay, just a bit of just to guide us as we go through this. Let's start with the first one, right? Let's fetch data from Prometheus. So I'm going to make another async function. Let's call it fetch Prometheus data, right? And what we need actually is to basically construct the URL. And I will show you how that's done, because it's not a straightforward process. When you call the Prometheus query underscore range endpoint, you have to provide some query parameters. So let's do start time will be mat.flow, and this will basically, this is going to tell Prometheus how far back it should go in getting us the data we need. So this should be give us all the data from 1 hour ago, I think. And then we want to do end should be end time should be now, like now. And then let's do step. Step is going to be 60 seconds, which is 1 minute. And then the query we want is the query, we can get that from our monitor.ts files, the name of our Prometheus instance. It is going to be the same thing as our query. So let's do const query is going to be, damn it, no. I thought I copied that. Let me copy that over again. Okay, that's going to be our query. And then we can construct our URL. It's going to be, so we have it in the env file. Next, let me actually see what we called it. It's next public Prometheus URL range. Okay, I'm gonna copy that because I can't remember all of that. Then I'll concatenate the query to it, so that this way we are saying this is our query, this is the start time, this is the end time, and this is the step space. Fantastic. So the next thing I want to do is basically just make the API call. Let's do a response, await fetch, and we pass in the URL. Just like we did before in the previous stream, we want to revalidate the cache every couple of seconds because we expect this data to be changing very often. So in Next.js we have a way to do that. You pass in a next object here, and in there we provide our revalidate time. We can set this to 2 seconds. Then we check if the response is okay. Actually, let's check if it's not okay. If it's not, we just throw an error that the request is failing. Otherwise, we return the response. Okay, so we're done with the first part of our pseudocode. Actually, let's try to see that it works. Let's we called it what, fetch Prometheus data. So let's do fetch Prometheus data. Oh, okay, I just realized that I've not been typing all of these things, so let me import our types. Got service, and I think services data. Why is it yelling? We've got that here in service.ts. Okay, let me specify a return type for our fetch status function. This is going to be promise, and we're going to have services data. Okay. Okay, we need to return something in this function. We will do that soon. And what else do I need to properly type here? I think this should be it for now. Okay, so let's log this response to see what we're getting back. Response. And what I can do is go back into my Uptime monitor page, and here we want to import our fetch status. Let me try to find where we did that. Actually, it's fetch status from our utility function, and what we want to do here is do const data is going to await fetch status. So I'm going to make this an async function. Okay, so here I need to return something so that it can stop yelling. Response.data.result. Okay. 1990 Prometheus is not running. Oh, sorry about that. Let me start my Prometheus server. Okay. Yeah, because the URL we are using, if I check the env file, all these are Prometheus URLs supposed to be available on port 1990, but it's I've not been running Prometheus, so it hasn't been working. Let me actually confirm that we are doing that now. So I will check 1990. Okay, it's running. Let me check my targets, and I see that it's up. Okay, and I'm getting a ton of data back. Cool. All right, so what I want to do is get back, where is it? My Uptime page, and we're getting data. Let's look at fetch status. Okay. There we go. So we see that we're getting our data back. We got data.result. This is all the arrays where it is. So let me try to log that. Let me do response.data.result instead. Because I want to see what's inside of all of these objects that we get in. Okay, so for each object we've got a metric object that has a couple of stuff in it and a values array. All right, so this will lead me to the next thing that we want to do, right? The second thing, we want to map the data to an expected format. So let's do that. I'm going to have another function that does that for us actually, as opposed to just doing everything inside of here. So let's do a function that will map to expected format. this part is, I don't consider it to be very necessary, to be honest. You can very easily skip this, but it makes it easier for me to work with this data. So we're going to return services map, and then for each item, for each service, this will be of type any for now. And then, sorry about that. What have I been doing? Return services. This is service. Actually, let's call it services because it's all those services. And this will be of type service array, I think, because that's what we're going to pass in here. Cool. Then for each service, we want to change the structure of that object. So let's get the name of the service, and let's call it service.metric.name. If you look at the console, you'll see that's where we're getting our service name from. And then I want to have a status object. It's going to get the value. This is going to be, make sure it's an integer, and we want to get the value from our values array. We want to grab the first one. So we have service.values. By the way, if anyone has any thoughts, or if you're typing in the chat, I just want to let you know that I'm not seeing it. So if you have any questions, I'm sure Sonia can unmute and let me know. Or we can also make this an empty array in cases where that is not available. And then I want to get the labels. This is going to just be the metrics. So we want to do service.metric. And lastly, eventually we're going to also have like last 10 records or last 10 services like this. Where is it? No. And then like an uptime percentage, some stuff like that. I'm not going to do that now, though we don't need it at the moment, but we're going to have that later on. So now that I've mapped that, what I can do is, just to be sure that I've structured my data the way that I want it, I can do const services is going to be mapped to the expected format, and I'm going to pass the response to it. Not the response, actually. I want to pass the response dot data dot result, because that is where our array is, and I can log this. No, I'm gonna take this out. And now if you look at the terminal, you see that I'm getting the data in the format that I expect it to be in. Good, so I can work with that. The next thing I want to do is also kind of like the most important bit of this stream. We want to grab the latest records from this bucket of data, because if you look at what we got from Prometheus, you see we've got this huge bucket of data that keeps increasing after every couple of seconds. So for instance, for the archiver service, we're going to get a couple more archiver services here, and I want to grab just the 10, because if you look at the example that Avalanche has, they are grabbing data for the last 90 days, which is maybe close to what we want to do eventually when we go to production. But for now, I want to grab the last 10 records for each service. So that's what we need to do next. So let's go ahead and set that up. I'm going to do another async function. Actually, we're not making any calls here. I don't think this needs to be async. So let's just do get latest records. I don't know what I should call this, to be honest. Let's do get latest services. Okay, I'm happy with that. Except I also need to pass in a limit to specify that I want to grab only 10 records. Okay, and in here, the first thing I want to do is set up like a latest services map to hold all the latest services. So let's do latest services map. It's going to just be a new map. Then I want to populate this map basically by iterating over all the services we have and adding all of that into the services, into the latest service map. It's services, so that it's plural. Okay, so let's then do services that got passed in. For each of those, we want to have a service history. Let's do service history. I think this is just better than saying services again. And then name. Then we want to, okay, so now what we actually I think I should do this one later. Let's do this later. For now, let's do you know what, I'm just gonna go ahead and do it now. If it changes in the future, then we change it as well. Let's just go ahead and do it. So I'm going to create I'm going to do service, so I can create a new variable called service history right below. So let's do service history here. Then it's going to be latest services.map, services map, get the service name, or we leave it as an empty array for when that's not available. A name we're passing in from here. Okay, the next thing I want to do is push all of that value. Let's do service history, push the service for each of those services, and then let's update the map, which is our latest services record, with the service history that we've just created. But we don't want to limit it yet. We don't want to slice that. We want to do that one later on. Okay, so that out of the way, the next thing I want to do is let's have a new array variable that we're going to just call latest services, so that we can sort, right? We want to go through all the data. At the moment, our latest services map should have all the data for each service, but we want to sort that so that we get the one that is the most recent with respect to the timestamp of each service. So let's do latest services, which is going to be an array type. It's just going to be an empty array for now, and we go to our latest services map, and we say for each item in the map, we've got our service history, I really can't spell anything today, right? And then what we want to do now is sort everything that we've got inside our service history by the timestamp. So we do service history dot sort A of any, B of any, and we want to do A minus B basically, but again we want to ensure that it's a number. So let's pass int here, And this will be a.status.labels, because if you look at we have a status object here, we have a labels object, and inside this object we have a key of timestamp, which we represent the timestamp for each service. So let's do a minus b, basically a dot status dot labels dot timestamp. Yes. Excuse me. Oh, it's 0 for when there's no timestamp. And I can do that as well for the B, and that should give us what we need. Now, it will be safe to say that our most recent services would be, if we slice this by 10, we can grab the 10 latest records for each service. And let's save that into a variable. Actually, let's do most recent. Services is going to be our service history. Yes, and the limit is going to be the value that we pass in when we call that function. Okay, now another thing that I want to account for is if you look at the example we're working with, you see that we've got this uptime percentage, I'm calling it. So 99% uptime, 100% uptime. The way that I think we can calculate that is to check for the records that we're checking, right? We want to see how many of how often is the value equal to 1. So for instance, if we're checking the monitor server and we have 10 records of the monitor server, we want to see the uptime count. So in that 10 records, how many of them has the value of 1, which means the server is up, and then we can divide that number by the length of the service that we're checking. So let me actually do that. Let's do uptime. Let's calculate that. Let's do calculate uptime, and we pass in the most recent services. I'm gonna create that function because we haven't done that. So let's do calculate uptime. It's going to accept a services array, and then the first thing I want to do there is get my uptime count. So let's do uptime count. We're going to filter the services array that we pass in. Sorry. And dot filter. And then we're going to get where the service.status.value is equal to 1. We get the length of that, which means we can simply return uptime count divided by services.length and multiplied by 100. So this should give us things like 9 divided by 10 multiplied by 100, which would give us 90%. And okay, so now that we have that, I think the thing that's left for us to do is to push all of that data into our latest service, which is this array that we have defined here. So let's do latest services, and we push. And what we want to have in there is the name, which is the name of the service. We want to have the uptime. We want to have actually it's going to do uptime percentage. That's what we are expecting. It's going to be uptime. Then we want to pass in those records. So let's call it last 10 services. It's going to be the most recent services that we just calculated, and maybe the status as well. So let's do status. It's going to be the most recent services. Grab this dot status. Awesome. So I think this this does it, right? So this is what we get back at the end of the day when we've done all the maths that we needed to do, which would then mean, let me grab this function, get latest 10 services. Now, I need to return something here. Actually, I'd forgotten to do that. When I'm done with all of this, I want to return an object. The services is our latest services array that we just pushed data to. So this is what we're getting back from this function, right? So I'm going to grab this, and what I want to do now is instead of just using the services map that we just did before, I want to grab out the latest 10 services, and that's what I'm going to send back to, that's what I'm going to return from this function. So let's do our latest records is going to get that from get latest records, no, get latest 10 services, and we pass in our services. Then we can return our latest records. No. Like that. And then we can specify the number of records to be 10 that we want to grab. Okay, we've got a squiggly line. Let's see. Type service. Get last records. Where is that? Service object, limit is number. Is not assignable to type service. What do we have there? Last 10 services. Okay, let's see if it's, let me see what I have in my service. Last 10 services, we've got that. I'm trying to find out the type mismatch that I'm getting here. This error is not very helpful. Okay, we've got status and 1 second. Okay, let me see if I get rid of it, if the error goes away. Value is number. Let's see. %. You know what? I'm just going to edit this for now so that it doesn't take up all my time. And what else? Where did I got rid of this? Let me put this here. Yes, so I'm going to edit this. I'll fight with TypeScript later. And save this. Okay. So I think what we can do now is see the kind of data we're getting back on the Uptime page. So to do that, I'm going to, what am I returning here? Let's see, services. Nope. Let's see, fetch status. Oh, we're sending back the latest records. I see. Okay, let me check the Uptime page, and what we can do here is I'm going to log that out. I'm going to print that out and see what it looks like, see what we're working with. Okay, so we see that we get a services array and the name is 0. let's see, the name, where am I setting the name, is 0 for each service. Name is service.metric.name. Oh yeah, I think I'm using the value for a name somewhere. That's why it's setting the name of the services as their values. It's just to find where I'm doing that now. Let's see when I get this. Push the service and I set the name. Name, uptime percentage, last 10 services. Let me see this. 1 second. Last 10 services is okay. Uptime percentage is 100 for the monitor service. Good. I think I can get rid of this. We really don't need it. And let me see, service.metric.name. This is weird because I'm passing in the correct name. One second. By the way, if any of you spots where I'm doing name.metric.value instead of name.metric.name, be happy to let me know if you see that. I'm going to log my services here just to help me check. Latest services. Yeah, this is a ton. By the way, I see that the issue is definitely from here. So what is this value here for each? Let's see. Good, service.name. Okay, I think this is the problem. Services. This is weird. This should be service.name. Yes. Yeah, I think this should be. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, that works. That works. Yeah. I couldn't have guessed that I did that. Okay, so now I want to grab the services array from this object so that we deal with, so we can map through it directly as opposed to trying to process the objects here. So let's get services directly from data, and then let's print services and see if we get our services array back, and we do get that back. Great. Okay, so this is the bulk part of this stream. What I want to do now is grab the markup that is going to display this data for us in the way that we have it here. I already have that set up, so let me just quickly grab that. I might have to tweak it a bit because the data has changed quite a little bit, so I might have to change that a bit. So let's look at what we have here. Okay, I have to import my service types. Is it from types? I doubt. It's from that and utils, I think. No, not utils, types and service. And then last 10 services, the map, possibly undefined. I think we can get around this with that. Perfect. Okay, let me save and see what we get. If it doesn't work, then we get back. Invalid time value. Okay, so I think our timestamp is not coming through. This is latest service.status.labels.timestamp, and I want to, okay, I'm going to do this one more time. I want to see how the timestamp is spelled. I'm guessing that's what I'm doing wrong, but let's see. I'm going to print it out again. Let's do json.stringify the services, not the data. See timestamp, labels. Oh, timestamp. I see. I misspelled that from the server side. Okay, I'll fix that. But in the meantime, I'm gonna intentionally misspell it here as well so that we get our data back. So where is it? It's right here. And let's save that. There we go. I have a weird number on screen. Let me get rid of that. Awesome. So we have our Uptime monitor page up. Let me see how much time we took to get here. Okay, a little bit more than we planned for, but hey, congratulations everyone that joined us on the stream today. I'm going to come back to Discord and stop presenting. That is what we wanted to achieve on the stream today. We have an Uptime monitor that will continuously let us know if anything goes down, or if for whatever reason any of our services are down. We can look at the network status page and we can look at the monitor page, and we would exactly know which of our services goes down. So that's what we wanted to get done today, and we've done that. So thank you for joining us, and I hope that you join us again next week. Next week, we're going to work on the network latency page. You see that we've got a couple of services that we're monitoring, maybe 7 of them. And something else that we've heard from the community and from all of you, is that it'd be nice to see the latency, like how quickly the servers respond when we try to poll them to get a response, and to know if they are online or offline. That's what we're going to work on next week, Thursday, the same time. So please join us, and I'll be looking forward to sharing how we build that as well with all of you. Thank you everyone for joining. I see that a couple more people are coming in just as we're about to close. If you're just joining us, we set up the network monitoring page for Shardeum. We're currently monitoring our archive server, our JSON RPC server, our monitor server, and a couple of our websites like our documentation, our Explorer, and the Shardeum homepage. We've set that up. Let me share my screen again, just for the benefit of people who just joined us. So we've, I don't know if you can see the screen at the moment, but we've set up this Uptime monitoring page for Shardeum that is going to basically monitor and report how our services have been up or down over a certain period of time. At the moment, we're looking at 1 hour ago, but eventually when we want to publish this, we're going to set it all the way back to maybe 1 month or 3 months. And this is what we did on the stream today. Next week, we're going to try to set up latency graphs, so that when we try to fetch the Explorer or the monitor or the documentation, we can get an idea of the response time, and if anything is taking too long, we will also know when we do that. So do join us next week. We are also going to document all of these repositories so that hopefully you can contribute and help us build Shardeum. So thank you everyone for joining. I will be ending the stream here, but I hope to see you all back next week. Bye everyone.